So come over here. We will go over what the exam is going to be about. I will also highlight to you that my phone number is going to be at the top. You can feel free to text me during the exam if you have specific questions. I suspect the exam will not take you longer than an hour, maybe an hour and a half. But if you are on hour 2.5 and you're still like banging head against keyboard, you've made a wrong turn at some point, because the goal is not for it to be that complicated. So if you're on any one question, you're really like going, oh, this seems really involved. This is going to be multiple pages of writing. Pump the brakes, shoot me a text and be like, this is what I'm thinking you want from this question. And I will likely steer you in another direction. Because the goal is not for the exam to be that long. I mean, when I was teaching this course for Aquinas, but on ground, students were done in an hour. Few of them maybe took an hour and a half, but that was it. So I think that's the downside of distance learning, is because you have access to everything, you feel like you need to double check yourself and triple check, and then you go down this rabbit hole that you may not do if you were just in a typical classroom. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, questions or concerns about the exam?
If we just go to the syllabus
Yes.
and we double check, like we've gone over like chapters 1 through, is this week 5, 1 through 4?
Yeah, so I did put that syllabus change schedule. That's in the announcement section. If you take that into account, let me just pull it up real fast here. We have gone through the basics of research. Let's see here. Yeah, so chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, that was ethics. 5 is good measurement. And today we're doing surveys and observation, which is chapter 6. Now,
Okay.
I redid the schedule on, and hopefully you guys can all see that it says week 6 is exam, week 7 is sampling. Only, and the reason why I'm bringing this up again is because on our syllabus, it says the exam will cover chapter 7. We are not, there's going to be no questions about chapter 7. It's only going to be up through chapter 6. And then week 7, we're going to be learning chapter 7 of information. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what did you say was due week 8?
Week 8, we're going to be doing the qualitative research. And so
Okay.
there's not going to be a formal class. You guys are going to be out in the community doing a qualitative research experiment.
So we're working on our papers basically for that.
No. It's a great question. So this
So
is
that-
different than the research paper.
Oh, okay.
You will be given several options. My hope is that we could just talk about it during week 7, but we can talk about it briefly now. There'll be 3 different scenarios or options that you can choose of locations where you can go. And then you will observe a certain behavior within that context. So one of the ones I gave was to go to a grocery store, any local grocery store, or it could be Meijer or Target if you wanted to, if you have access to a car. And I would park near one of those cart return caddy area and just sit in your car where it's warm. Don't go out where it's cold. I would create, on a spreadsheet, you would create a tally. So you would have, and it's based on your hypothesis. So this may change, but for one of the students last year, she was interested in seeing if there was a difference in rates of return between people who were shopping alone versus shopping with someone else. And so then she created, a graph that would go alone. Oh boy, this is bad handwriting. Group returned, not returned. I'm still writing. I'm not sure you guys will be able to read my handwriting. Oh boy, see, this is my brain works faster than my hand. So alone, group, returned, not returned. And so as you would see people like, oh, there's a lady here, she's by herself, and yep, she returned the cart, you do a tally. Oh, there's a whole group, they did not return the cart, and so on and so forth. And so you would create these tally marks, these frequencies, and you would watch during a period of 30 to 45 minutes And then after that, oh, you got a kitty, so cute. Then after that, you would do a quick write up. And by quick, I mean probably like a paragraph, so like 5 sentences. Describe where you went, what you observed, what was your hypothesis, right? So with this particular one, why am I doing alone versus group? And maybe my hypothesis is that if somebody is by themselves, they're more likely to not return the cart because they're busy and they just want to get back in their car. Whereas if they're in a group, maybe somebody is unloading while the other person is walking to return it. So you would write a quick, couple sentences as to what is your hypothesis and why you think it's that. And then you would write up your results. So during my findings, I was there for 35 minutes. 50 shoppers went by. And out of those 50 shoppers, and then you provide statistics on each of these. So you would have to tell me how many returned versus didn't return, how many were alone versus in group, and what trend could you highlight? So again, this is one of those where you are sitting and observing a given behavior. I will give you 3 different scenarios that you can observe, but if you're like, none of those are exciting, I don't want to do that, and you have something else in mind, please do let me know, and then we can work on that as well. My only requirement is that it be something that is socially appropriate, right? We are not going to be, and I say this because this I learned the hard way. The first year I taught research methods back in California, I had a student turn in a paper about hand washing frequency after using public restrooms. And I was like, what? So this dear student was standing in a corner of a public restroom at the university and watching if people washed their hands or not, which I don't know. I wouldn't be super receptive if I stepped out of a bathroom stall and somebody taking notes and watching me. I don't like that. So we're not doing that. We're also not doing any weird behavior where you're parking your car in front of a park and watching children, right? We're just not going to go there.
I have one question about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
room washing one. Do you remember how many Callies he got or she?
It was a he, and I do not remember that. This was probably 10 years ago already now, but I just remember my brain, this was back in the day. I had my thick, red marker and I was like, and I was like, ooh! I stopped in my tracks reading his hypothesis. And I was like, no, something has gone horribly wrong. And then, of course, I went to very much of a CYA line of thinking where I was like, what if somebody asked him why he was doing this? And he said, it's because Dr. Woltell said I should. And I was like, the provost is going to come after me. Luckily, I did not go down that path. And we had a lovely discussion about the ethics of research and picking appropriate questions. So yeah, all to your question, I do not remember the specific statistics of it. Missed opportunity. That just flew out of my brain. The only thing that stuck was the trauma of reading that sentence. Yes.
Understandable.
So yeah, Elizabeth, just to go back to what you were asking, and I think I missed the chat. Oh yes,
Can you compare two different store?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's a great idea. Absolutely. Ooh, Noella, tell me more, because I have a few hypotheses flowing through my brain now.
Well, I was thinking like compare two different stores, especially like Maya and Walmart, because those are like the ones that get a lot of customers.
Yeah.
So seeing how many people like return the, I don't know how you call it, the things you use to carry the food with.
Yeah.
Or just
that's a great idea.
That likes to shop like and sold on the store than the other ones.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Comparing stores. You could even do because where my brain went was like comparing a grocery store versus like a hardware store, where people are going to be carrying like different amounts of goods, right? So it might be a larger cart, and then maybe they're more physically adept because they're picking up like hardware stuff and wood, and so they're like, I'm going to walk it back. And then the other thought is, how many people actually return it back to inside the store versus just in the cart caddy area. Yeah, lots of good ideas. So yeah, that's just one that I have suggested to students before because it's fairly straightforward. Another one that's pretty straightforward is standing by, and I think you're allowed to go to the mall now, right? The mall's open. you could just sit at a bench near, usually the elevators, escalators. Do they even have just basic stairs? I think, I can't remember where they are at the mall, but anyway, where you could stand. Yeah, maybe there's not actual stairs. Everything is motorized, so that'd be different too.
Out at Woodland, there's not even stairs, I feel like, unless you're in like Barnes and Noble or stuff like that.
Yeah, you're right, because it's only one story, huh?
Mhm.
Huh. Yeah, so that might not be as applicable. Again, back in California, there were always those three options. And so seeing what kind of behavior like you observed, the people choose, like what was the rate of, going to each option. And then was somebody in a wheelchair or pushing, a baby buggy? Like what did that look like? So also interesting to do that. But yeah, there's lots of options. It could be with clothing too. With winter gear, especially, like how many people do you see fully geared up, gloves, hat, jacket to go inside Meijer, versus you always see that one person like shorts, a t-shirt, like it's fine. This is not even impacting me. My skin is, I've got double warmth or whatever they're thinking. So yeah, lots of opportunities. So start thinking about what you think you might want to do, and then we'll introduce it again. That'll be week 7. We will talk about that further. So a couple weeks. Okay. Any other questions about that? Okay. So without further ado, let us, and of course, whenever I press screen share, it's never what I want. That's actually up as an option. Let's see if that'll work now. Yes. Okay, so today we are going to talk about surveys and observations, which is kind of fitting with what we're talking about. But specifically surveys and why we utilize them. What are some limitations of surveys? How do they respond back to our original discussion of reliability and validity? And how do we ensure that we're getting strong surveys and results that are representative of our sample, right? That it's not just random findings that we got because it's not a valid tool, right? Okay, so that is our goal for today. Oh boy, everything's falling. Here it is. All right, so as I just mentioned, the overview, we're going to look at construct validity of surveys and polls. We're going to talk specifically, not just like, is the instrument relating to the construct, but also talk about item development specifically and how much that impacts responses. So understanding that built-in bias that you can see. We're going to talk about construct validity of behavioral observation, kind of what is the difference between surveys and polls versus behavioral observation. And then how do we know for sure that we are measuring what we're saying we're measuring, right? If I'm like, well, I looked at my class and 3 out of the, how many people are in our class right now? 14, I think, 6. Yeah, 18 out of the 17 students, only 3 of them had their video on. Therefore, I only have 3 students who will get an A. Right? Well, I'm joking. This is not actually, don't rush and turn on your video. I just mean, how would that actually, that's not an accurate measurement, right? Students who have their video on are the smartest or most accomplished or will get the highest grades. That's not necessarily a good measure of that. And then we will also focus on frequency claims specifically with surveys and observations and how we can see its impact. All right, so that's the goal for today. So first, let's talk about surveys and polls. Give me an example of a survey or a poll.
When you go on YouTube and instead of doing a like ad, it says, which of these advertising companies have you seen? And then it's like Allstate, Geico, State Farm, and then you're, or none of the above, and then you're boop, boop, boop.
Right. Okay, good. All right. Anybody else?
The first thing that came to mind was Family Feud.
Okay, in what way?
And so it's like where they have to guess like the most Most likely answer for on a survey out of 100 people.
Yep. I love that show. I honestly, like every year, I like to look at the like biggest bloopers on those TV shows, and also the news, just news bloopers are funny too. But yeah, people say the most random things. So yes, that would be a poll. So what they did is they asked 100 people ahead of time to give their response to that question. They then created a frequency table and they said, here's all the responses. And then they gave it a frequency score. That frequency score is the score that the team would get if they get that same answer, right? So one of the classic ones would be, and if you've not seen this video, I need to find it and link it because it's hilarious. Question was, what is something that you commonly, what food do you commonly stuff? What would you guys say?
Turkey.
Turkey, right? Okay, that's what the guy said. Then it was, what food do you bring to the beach? And he was like, turkey. Okay, now same response. What point distribution do you think he got between those two?
Top for the stuffing and then 0 for the next.
Right. And so there's never, that's exactly right. So he got like 65 points for the stuffing part because almost everyone thinks of turkey. And then food you bring to the beach, turkey. And then the third question, name an animal that flies. What did he say? Turkey. Okay, so obviously he got like mentally stuck on this thing and he thought it was funny. Now, is that a good strategy? I would dare say no, because those are not common responses. So, okay, that is very much an example of a poll. A survey, same idea, is that you're asking a question of individuals or participants and having them pick a response, right? Okay. You need to check on how you will choose the question format. For instance, you can have a statement and have the person rate strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree. That's called a Likert scale. Or you can provide just responses like different choice. So like an exam, for instance, you would have different options on those. That's another question format. It could be true, false. It could be a fill in the blank. There's lots of options there. So based on what it is you're trying to get from people, again, the Family Feud example, they're trying to elicit responses. So they wouldn't say which of the things you're most likely to see at the beach and provide a long list of items. They want the respondents to give them the answer. So it's open-ended. It is crucial to write well-worded questions. Why is that?
So everyone can understand it.
Right.
Because didn't you, like in statistics, you used an example of like bestiality
Yep.
or one, and no, like not a lot of people actually understood what bestiality meant. So like that data was kind of flawed.
It was. Yeah, and that's just it. If you're using any sort of language that is above really a 4th grade reading level, that's going to be problematic. You're just right off the bat going to eliminate some people who are not going to understand keywords within your sentence. If you have very long sentences, that's another way that drags down how effective of a question it is, because oftentimes people don't read through. And then if you are using double negatives, for instance, people will have to stop and go, wait, what? What did you say? Like that? That's not good, right? So writing well-worded questions is extremely important. And then you want to also encourage accurate responses, right? That seems like a no-brainer. But what might be something that gets in the way of getting an accurate response?
People want you to think that they're the best versions of themselves possible.
Exactly. I eat fruits and veggies every single day of my life. Well, yes, I do. Just don't talk about yesterday when I had pizza and chicken nuggets and nachos. I guess we're going to count the tomatoes from the pizza, right? Okay. So that's what I mean. Like, right. If you have a question that is going to pull for people to want to respond in a certain way because it is more socially desirable to do so, you are not going to get an accurate response. the really like hallmark of this is asking about substance abuse. That's the most common one, where people will minimize how much they report because it doesn't make them feel good about themselves. Oftentimes they're admitting to illegal behavior depending on the substance. So you have to find a way to ask in your question and obtain your data in such a way that the client and participant is not going to be on the defensive and will be more likely to minimize how much they're utilizing. Okay. Elizabeth, 1,000%. Yes, if you creep in the middle of the bathroom, people might go, what is that dude doing there? And who knows, maybe they walked out and used a sink somewhere else. So yeah. Okay, so choosing a question format. Here are 4 different types. There's the open-ended question, that would be the Family Feud response. Like, what is the most likely thing you would purchase on Valentine's Day? Right? You go through. Forced choice is giving them 2 options, right? So you must pick between one of these. Those are the only options. So a multiple choice exam is a forced choice format. Unless you've got a professor that's like, or E, other, fill in the blank. That's mean. I'm sorry if you have that professor. A Likert scale is giving it an order, like a specific score. Like I said, it could be a strongly disagree to strongly agree. Or you can create these anchors and then put numbers in between. It's kind of similar to semantic differential format, which would be if you ever take personality questionnaires where you say like, there's 2 opposing adjectives on either end, and there's little dash marks. So you can kind of put yourself on how much you agree or disagree with the statement. So it'd be something like messy or clean, right? Like, are you a messy or clean person? And so then you would mark yourself somehow on that continuum. And so the idea is that the semantic differential format is anchored by those adjectives, and it lets the individual picture in their mind both extreme and then place themselves according to that. What is great about semantic differential format is it provides context. So if you've ever heard, like, on a scale of 0 to 10, how bad is your pain, right? If you go see the doctor or you're speaking to a nurse and they say that to you, well, in the moment, you might go, it's a 7, right? That's bad. I'm really hurting. And they're like, okay, so most people rate a 7 to be childbirth, or like they anchor it with a life event. And then you're like, well, I guess my hangnail maybe is not a 7 then. Maybe it's a 2, But if you don't do any sort of anchoring like that, or have them self-assess, what is the worst pain you've ever experienced? And then they come up with their own personal experience of what is this worst pain. Mark that as a 10. Now, a day where you're feeling 0 pain at all, how are you feeling? Have them describe that. Now, how are you feeling right now? And then you have them self-assess within that. So that's one of the benefits, again, of that semantic differential format, is that it's usually a little bit easier to have the individual insert context, right? Whereas, again, do you guys ever have like a default on Likert scales, the strongly disagree to strongly agree? Where you're like, oh, I always answer whatever.
I always answer like a 4.
Okay. Because you're like, it's not the most amazing ever, but it's not bad. 4. Is that what you're thinking, McKenna? Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
What scale has like the little like faces, like for the far right, like super duper happy, or like far left, like frowny face?
Oh,
Is that,
like,
yeah, for like kids more like.
yeah. Let's see. I think it's called the feelings chart for kids.
Oh, okay, cool.
Is this kind of what you're thinking? Oh, this one's fun. Okay, let me share that. Like that?
Yes.
These are like newer with emojis. Like, I'm used to like Oh, that's kind of what I'm thinking, something more like that. Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know if that like these got like lumped in with like the Likert scale or anything
Yeah.
else.
I mean, it's a visual cue. So the whole point of utilizing any of these survey formats is that we can assign them a point value so that then we can analyze them doing statistics. I don't know that we could assign place value to pictures like that about emotions. I think that'd be a lot more challenging because, well, I picked maybe a bad one, but you know,
I feel like you can, but it will be just for children.
yeah, I mean, you could, but like, is sad or scared worse or better than mad?
Now, question, going off our Article 2 critique,
Yep.
where they take that like, oh, how's your mood?
Yep.
Would this be something that they could do for that to be like, oh yeah, like I feel that emotion, and so it's like it's a subsection of like it's 9 options, pick one.
You
Not
could.
like-
That definitely would work. I just am curious again about how you would assign it point value.
Yeah.
That's the biggest piece because this is awfully subjective. And again, like, I don't know. Obviously, I would pick like this would be ideal. You'd want to be happy. So if I say that's the most number of points, I'll say that's 4 points. But then what's the second most ideal? Scared? I mean, I'm putting a weird value here on anxiety versus anger versus sadness. I think that might be a little tricky. Yeah. And that's why with emotions, it is so helpful to have a Likert scale that says either strongly agree or you do a frequency. How many times, right? So, how many times in the last week did you cry? And then you have the same metric: none, 1 to 2, 3 to 5, 5 and more, right? And then for each question, each feeling, you do that. You can do it that way too. Are you guys hearing banging? If you hear banging, that is on my end. I'm very sorry. We're having some renovations done.
Hey, I'm also doing that. They're
Oh.
putting in fireplaces, so if you hear banging from mine, same.
Okay, there you go. Our mud room we're so close, you guys, so close. All right, let's see. Here we are with this one. Why isn't it loading on this one? Here it is. Okay, so these are all the different options in terms of choosing question format. All right. Now, we talked about writing well-written or well-worded questions. So be mindful of leading questions where you are inserting your own belief, your own opinion, maybe a societal viewpoint, and you give it valence in a way that the reader or participant or the person taking the survey will go, why, obviously I have to write that, right? So for instance, do you agree that it is a terrible idea to legalize marijuana? Okay, so that is asking a question that is supporting a specific viewpoint. You want to try, well, let me ask you this. How could you improve this question?
How do you feel about legalizing weed? 1 to 7. 1 being strongly disagree, or strongly against to strongly for.
Right. Oh no, it did this again, you guys, or my screen disappears. I don't know why it does that. It's so bizarre. Let's see. Can you guys still see me though?
Yes.
Oh, it's so weird. Okay, we're just gonna power through. It's like the screen that's in front of me that has the camera just goes totally black. So I can't see it. It's weird. So absolutely, Kyle, that's a good way to ask it. The other way you could say is you could say, do you agree? Or you could even say something like, I think marijuana should be legalized. Yes or no, right? We're just taking out the really valent adjective, right? Which is implying that if you here say no, that you're not a terrible person, right? You're not opposing, because the viewpoint that they're holding is so clear here. Okay. All right, here's another one. I wrote these as another example. How fast do you think the car was going when he hit the other car versus how fast do you think the car was going when he smashed into the other car? So the action verb is the only difference between those two questions. What are your thoughts on how that might impact the way they responded?
Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah. How fast was the car going when it hit the other car? And how fast was the car going when it smashed into the other car?
I feel like smashed sounds a lot worse, so it's going to seem like it's going a lot faster.
What do we think? Same, different?
Could you hear me?
I could hear Savannah.
I heard you, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wait, does she hear us?
Can she hear us?
I don't think so.
I can't hear you guys now. What is happening?
That's funny.
Can you guys hear Kyle?
Yeah.
Wait, you can hear me, but not them?
Hmm.
Ugh.
Can someone speak again?
Hello?
Dang it. Why can't I hear anything? Okay, we're gonna figure this out.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you. I
We're
just,
saying yes. Can you guys hear me?
yeah.
You can hear me. I can't hear any of you.
You hear, God, we can't say that we hear each
Forget
other.
what? I don't know. Okay, let me make sure.
No, I was so confused. I was like, she's not responding.
I
To what I'm
know.
saying.
I was like, yeah, Savannah nailed it. And then
Yeah.
Wait, I can hear you. Savannah nailed what? I need to know.
Oh, okay. About what you said before, I was saying that smashed like sounds a lot worse. So I'm gonna think
Yes.
I was going a lot faster than like hit.
Got it. Yes, 100%. So if you ask that question, you are priming your participant to think of a high number, right? Versus hit.
The other thing that I feel like I got from the second sentence was like it's putting the blame to the person who was driving in a high speed. It's like it was his fault, so it's more like encouraging the person he's asking the question to add more mile, to add more to how fast he was driving, even though it might be like less driving.
Absolutely. So having just been in a car accident myself recently, actually the kids kind of make fun of me. I've been in 2 car crashes in the last month. Not good. One gang that I tell you is in a car crash in a car wash.
No,
Oh my God.
please do tell.
I was so annoyed. We're in, so again, right? Just Dean, if you're watching, just pause, fast forward the video in a couple minutes. So in the car wash, we're all bumper to bumper to bumper, right? It's like a Friday afternoon. I'm Mr. Car Wash. I go there. I got kind of a fancier car, so I like to take care of it. And I'm with my son. We're having someone on one time, and we're like close, but right, it's a car wash. You're not speeding up. You're all going the same speed until individual person in front of me with lowered cognitive capacity in that moment decides to slam on her brakes. So she's got a massive, I don't know, Tahoe or Suburban, one of those large cars. And it is like going like this because obviously it's still pushing her to try to move forward, but her lights are bright red. She has like slammed on the brakes. So of course I hit her and then I get hit. And the car, so it was 7 cars total. We all hit each other.
Oh.
Now we get out, person in front of me just peels out. Don't know what she was thinking. Maybe she didn't even feel it because she's got a massive car. So I'm in the first car and I'm like, what just happened? Luckily there was no damage on my car. 2 cars behind those, 2 trucks, one with a tow hitch, so totally broke his bumper. So that happened. And then 2 Fridays ago during that big snowstorm, did I tell you guys about that?
No.
Oh, yeah, I totally got hit, T-boned in Jenison between showings. I was driving, it was like a whiteout in a tiny little neighborhood. I'm going like 10 and there's no stop signs. All the street signs in that neighborhood like are yields. He was driving behind a tree. He didn't see me, I didn't see him. And then we both came to the intersection, slammed on our brakes and slid, and then he hit me. So my car's gonna be in the shop for another 3 weeks.
Oh,
But I'm fine. So
that's good. That's what matters.
But circling back to what we were talking about, the cop came and was like, tell me what happened, right? Obviously, she could see that he had hit me, right? Because all his light was kind of dangling. It was not a big deal. My car was caved in, like bad, right at the driver's side too, and the tire there. But she didn't say, how fast was he going when he smashed into you? In fact, she didn't even assign blame. There was not like, what did he do? It was, tell me what happened. And then we recounted the story, and the gentleman was very kind. So there was no hard feelings on that one. Oh gosh, my dog's gonna start barking. So yes, the words that you say have a huge impact on how somebody is gonna be primed to respond. So it's important to keep that in mind. Okay, let's see here. Guys, I'm on the struggle bus with technology today. You guys see this? I can only see one now. I don't know why my second screen isn't working at all.
We see writing well worded questions.
No, I just moved things back. What did I just do? Okay, give me 1 second, because this is gonna bug me that somehow display, right? It's like a video. This is probably a video issue of mine, right? Monitor. No, I'm gonna need to do that during the break because this is not gonna work. Okay. Can you guys see this again?
Writing well worded questions. Yes.
Okay, good. So leading questions, check. We're done with that. Double-barreled questions. Those I see all the time. That is a novice error when somebody is writing a question because they really have two things in mind, but they're not separated by two separate questions. So, do you enjoy long walks and taking exam? How do you answer that?
Poorly?
I mean, some of you probably would say yes, and you're my kind of people. If you have two questions in one, you do not know which one they're actually saying yes to and no to. Bless you. Okay.
Thank you.
Negatively worded questions, same thing, causes lots of confusion. People who do not drive with a suspended license should never be punished. What is that saying?
That's confusing.
Right? So it's implying if you're not driving, or if you don't drive, but you have a suspended license, you shouldn't be punished. So you have a suspended license, you're not driving, you shouldn't be punished. Okay? But that you have to keep reading it to get to that point. Abortion should never be restricted. Meaning it should be restricted, but restricted is already kind of a minimizing word. So again, you want to try to go for as much clarity as possible. This is the example that I keep using. It is, how would your grandma answer this question? Would she be able to get it? Okay, question order effects. If you put things in a certain order, that might impact how your participants respond. So again, it's all about framing. If there are things that you're asking, let's say, about good health behavior and what does that look like, and health, and then you get to the tail end of your test and you're asking questions like, I indulge in food all the time, I don't like to exercise, you might prime the respondent to give a different set of answers at the end than they did at the beginning if you've got contrast. So something to be mindful of. Okay, I can't even open this video either. This may be a good time for us to do a little 15-minute technology break. I don't even know how I don't know why this is over here. Okay, let's all come back at 2. How does that sound?
Terrific.
Okay, see you all then.